Okay, happy to see everybody upright. I'm not saying a word, that's all I'm saying. It's a little in joke here. Okay, let's get compatible. Let's align by closing our eyes. So let's close our eyes. Om Gang Ganapatiye Namaha. Om Gang Ganapatiye Namaha. Om Gang Ganapatiye Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvina Vididamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om Om Tat. Okay, looks like the gang's all here. Very good. Which is good. We have a lot to cover today. And we're going to start off looking at our homework. So the main homework is a follow-up on the 311 alignment and also contrasting with the 410 alignment. Yes, so we did that one last week. And I gave you these charts. Whoops. That's not the charts. Where are you, charts? Love when they disappear. There they are. Those are our charts. So I would have to say that the people that sent in homework, the homework was, I would use the word exquisite. I thought you did a really good job. Amisha, you have your hand up? I see your hand up.
Sorry, no tech glitch. It wasn't on purpose, sorry.
Okay, no problem. So this particular comparison between Hillary Clinton and Eleanor Roosevelt, I actually spent about, we had digestion classes where we went totally into all kinds of details on their chart. But part of that was art of alignment. So there's we could spend 2 hours on the comparison of these charts for sure, but we are going to focus on the main points of art of alignment here. We could bring up disparities in strength. That's a little bit interesting also, I think, in these charts. I would love to spend the whole time on them, but we can't because we have 2 more to do before our last class next week. So yeah, might be slightly frustrating, but there are other vichatas where we have done definitely Hillary Clinton's chart in a lot more detail. And so you'll meet her again if you haven't done that particular one. A couple of you have, but the majority have not. So don't be too frustrated, I guess, because you'll definitely meet Hillary Clinton again, and Eleanor Roosevelt also, in yet another class that I do, something called Vichara Tidbits, which I don't think any of you have taken. So yeah. Okay, so working with this, let's go first with Hillary Clinton, because since she's a little better known to all of you, although some of you did very lovely research. A couple of you are like teaming up and doing some of them together, which is wonderful, as long as the team is equal, like it's not one person sort of tutoring the other one through their homework, which definitely was not the case in this particular team, and coming up with very good things. So let's go. We do need to do utilization. That's always important in how we frame either the 410 or the 311. I'm sure that you understand that's what we're doing. So starting with Hillary, what would you say about Hillary in terms of utilization? Okay, so because we have a lot to do, I'm going to have to do the calling on thing, so that we don't waste time with sort of silence. Okay, so Anastasia, what's the utilization for Hillary?
So the one on the left, Venus is the Lagna Lord. It goes to it's Sva, so it has strength. It also, the Lagna get affliction from Rahu and Ketu, and also gets I mean, I forgot the word.
It's okay. I think
I
you want
forgot
to
the
say
word.
stabilization, right?
Yes, by Jupiter.
Yeah, and
And
for you, this is a different language. For me, I drop words all the time, and I'm only speaking one language, so you don't have to feel any kind of pinch about it. It's fine.
yeah,
Yeah,
I would say she's definitely a utilizer, and
but it's a very interesting chart, and again, I wish we could take a lot of time on it because technically she has an Avayoga, technically speaking. So all of you have done basics 3 now, and even far enough along in basics 3 for the Bhava yogas. But you can see that the Lagna Lord has gone to a negative house, and the house and the Lord are afflicted. So it is an Avayoga, but it's also a very strong Venus. So we have to say that she has utilization, but she also has Avayoga kind of karma pala, which she definitely does. And I think that what we're about to talk about today certainly shows that in her life. But she's got utilization. So her dasha sequence includes that Venus, doesn't it? In fact, that Venus comes at a very important time in her life. So what's going on when she's running her Venus dasha? Yeah, Jada?
That's when she's finally able to kind of start her career aspirations and, be in the Congress and Senate and then, work with Obama.
No, she's not quite in the Congress or Senate.
Not yet. Okay.
No. But where is she in her Venus Dasha? Which is why I picked this chart to do this.
Her age, do you mean?
No, what's going on in her life when she's in the Venus Dasha. So she doesn't run for Senate, etc., until after Obama, right?
Well, that's it. Yeah. So sorry.
So Venus Dasha is over before Obama is ever even.
Yeah.
So what's she doing? Anybody? During her Venus Dasha? You look at the years. Okay, so yeah, Dee, thank you. Save me because I want to be very sweet, and sometimes so I get frustrated. Is you get your homework, you do the dasha sequence. I actually give you the information. You're looking at this alignment of Lagna Lord and 7th Lord, and she's running the dasha of her Lagna Lord, and wouldn't it be interesting to know what's going on, right? So that's what I kind of expect you to at least minimum do. So go ahead, Dee.
Well, this is very general, but she's just supporting Bill. I mean, very supportive of Bill, even though he's a womanizer, and she stood by him, although
Yeah, this is the whole Bill Clinton presidency.
yeah,
is during her
By
Venus
him.
Dasha. You guys are you aware of this? This is when the whole presidency for Bill happens. Yeah, during those years. So for this reason, this is going to be a very consequential art of alignment, isn't it? And so what Dee is sort of summarizing already is that she's in what role here. So, Trevor, in that 410 alignment, who's Hillary?
Well, she's Venus.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the partner's 10 away.
That's right. And so what does that spell out?
That she's kind of supporting him.
She's subordinate. She's supporting him. She's in the background. In fact, sadly, women should be seen and not heard role, as it turned out, in that presidency. Go ahead, Misha.
I was just going to add to that she was more self-sacrificing and had to take the more passive role while he was in the limelight.
Absolutely. I don't believe that Bill Clinton wanted that. He sort of sold it as, I think you mentioned, Claire, or someone did, that the country was getting a twofer. They're getting 2 for 1 because she's so capable. Is she more capable than he is? I wonder. Take a look. So, Mark, what do you think? At least as it looks in this chart.
Right. It's entirely possible because Venus is Swa, and would have skillfulness, kaushalam. Mars, her spouse, is debilitated.
Yeah. There's a huge difference here.
Right. Yeah.
Huge difference here. Somebody once said to Hillary, I don't remember the exact quote, but, oh, you were so fortunate. You wound up marrying someone who became the president of the United States. And she said, I could have married a gas station attendant and he would have been the president of the United States. Something along those lines. And she's probably right. So, Elizabeth?
Well, I was just going to say it's interesting during her Venus Dasha and his presidency, he handed off one of the biggest challenges, which was healthcare. And she did an amazing job, which was probably the foundation of Obamacare, subsequently. And that Venus in the 6th house, which is medical. Yeah.
Yeah, she had a huge interest in that, a huge interest in children, the rights of children, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, one of the tragedies of our country is that she didn't win against Trump. It's a total tragedy in our country. And the reason is that she ran in her sun dasha. She's got a debilitated sun. It's just like the wrong timing kind of thing. It's kind of the finger of fate. So the problem, though, Elizabeth, was as good as that legislation was, the House and the Senate wouldn't have it. They wouldn't elevate a woman. They wouldn't listen to a woman. They wouldn't honor, her thoughts or anything. And it died. And she wound up losing. You could tell from her name. Her name was Hillary Rodham Clinton. And then it went to Hillary Clinton. And then it went to Mrs. Clinton. She had to go all the way down like that in order to get anything done. Isn't that pathetic? It's really pathetic. It's also karmic here. So he was out in front. She supported. She has the juice. His chart's not an easy chart. We've looked at his chart before. It's not amazing yogas, etc. It's enough, that he got elected. But I think her karma pulled him along. That she has a chart like this. Now, one very interesting idea I had is that there was perhaps a tacit understanding or something that she might not have shared with him in terms of why she married him, because she didn't agree to marry him. Third time it took. She turned him down twice because she knew, that she was a lot better. She was in Washington, she was working on all these things, but nobody would have believed this, and nobody was told. She didn't tell anybody till years later. She didn't pass her bar exam and decided that if she lived in Arkansas, she could pass that bar exam easily, become a governor's wife, and use that as her platform. Do you understand? It was very calculated. She's a calculating person, by the way. Anyone who's done nakshatras, I think we did this chart in the nakshatras, yeah? And we saw just how calculating she is. And so she did that. She set them up. The money she got from her lawyering and property and this and that and on and on. And I think that her thought was first him and then me. And that she married him on that basis. And of course they executed that, as soon as he was out of office, and she ran against Obama. It didn't work. She was Secretary of State, very prestigious. She was Senator, very prestigious. Next move, she ran again. And after that broke her. It was something that just broke her. And so I think it's pretty fascinating, this 410, don't you think? Yeah. Okay, let's move over to Eleanor Roosevelt. Also very interesting. I'm going to tell you now that you aren't fully loaded enough to know why she is a big utilizer. You look at this and you think, I don't get it. It's not an Ava Yoga. Do notice it's not an Ava Yoga. Why? Because there's no affliction to the Lagna and there's no affliction to the Lagna Lord. So even though the Lagna Lord is in the 12, it is not an Ava Yoga. Are we clear about this, Mark? Yeah? Mark is in Ava Yoga land now, or in Group 2 Yoga land.
Yes, clear. Sorry, I was on.
Good. Yeah, no problem. And so I can't really tell you yet. You'll have to just wait for the tidbit class, actually. Obviously, she's one of the most highly regarded women. Yeah. So now let's look at her chart. We have to take, as I said, we have to take the utilization piece out, other than there's no problem. Her Lagna Lord happens to go to the 12th Baba. It's in a negative Baba. But there certainly isn't a problem. It's not afflicted. It's not first year weak. Nothing's wrong with the Lagna. Yada, yada, yada. Okay? So we can't call it weakness here. And the other interesting thing is, where are all the grahas as a group? Jada? Is that you waving your hand?
I was kind of pointing in that direction. They're all kind of in the northeast side.
Kind of?
Well, they are.
They're not even in 1 to 7. Yeah. They're all in the visible half. All of them.
In the visible spectrum.
And with beautiful Venus and Jupiter, it's not an Amala Yoga because of the Saturn Drishti, right? But she does have a beautiful Jupiter-Venus right in that 10th Bhava. So there's a lot going on that way that made her visible. Okay, so I know you know that she has from your homeworks, and those of you that didn't turn it into me, I'm sure you know, this is a 311 situation here. So how did this work out? Interestingly, the Lagna Lord and the 7th Lord, neither of them are in particularly strong. Neither of them are first year weak, neither of them are first year strong. the seventh lord is afflicted, whereas the Lugna lord is not. Right? Because that's Venus. Saturn's afflicting Venus, which could kind of describe her husband, right? He had polio. There's definitely an issue there. Okay, so how did this 311 work out? So let's see. Claire?
Well, even from the start, I just thought it was really interesting, Penny, that they were fifth cousins once removed. So it was sort of this idea of this sibling adjacent bond, like right from the get-go.
Right from the get-go, yes.
Just set the themes up right away. And throughout their lives, obviously there were issues, but they even admit the sort of rivalry, the sibling rivalry theme. They kind of consistently operated as allies who had each other's backs. And they had the 311 not only in the with respect to the Lugna Lord and the seventh Lord, but also with the Karaka, right? It's the same, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yes, Karaka is the same.
So it's almost like that, just supporting a supporting element there.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Right. And can we characterize her supportiveness more given the flow of their years together and things that might have occurred that maybe would not have been supportive, for another woman without a 311, for example. So anyone want to speak to that? Jada?
Yeah, I mean, she learned that he basically was having an affair into their marriage, and she offered him a divorce, but his mother basically said, if you divorce her, that'll be political suicide, and I'll cut you off from the inheritance. So they pretty much ended up having like a marriage where he initially told her he wasn't seeing her anymore, but then she later learned that he was, and so she focused on becoming sort of like an independent woman who was still championing his values in regards to politics and to the nation and to their kids. And so they have this shared ideal, even though they weren't a marriage in terms of the intimacy of a marriage.
Right. And I wonder if any of you read deep enough as to whether she really was all that brokenhearted about it. Anybody read anything else regarding her? Misha? I'm wondering.
Didn't get a chance to do her chart.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, it was reported that she also had love interests, and her love interest, especially, I think there was just this one love interest, was another woman. So she didn't necessarily care, beyond the blush of the sort of the first marriage as a bride, et cetera, et cetera. And then when it turned out he had these affairs, maybe that gave her some license, for her own predilections. But there definitely are love letters and all of that are substantiated. And I think that helped her. It sort of bolstered her and let her go on and focus on her work, etc. This is definitely a 311. It's platonic, literally platonic, after their first few years of marriage. Yuri?
Yeah, when you mentioned Karaka, what did you mean? Like Claire mentioned 311.
Oh, because she was looking at, I sent you out those sheets, and told you that you could start filling them in. And on the sheets, you look at the Lord, the Lugna Lord, and the Lord of the Baba that we're talking about, and you look at the Lugna Lord and the Karaka for that Baba, and to see if there's confluence.
What's the Karaka?
So it's the seventh Baba. The Karaka for the seventh Baba is always Venus, right?
Ah, okay. And it's when, because I was thinking Karaka for first Lord, it should be Sun. No?
No, we're not looking for the Karaka for the first Lord.
Ah, okay.
We're taking Karakas rather than the Lords. So you're looking at Lagna Lord, 7th Lord. Then you're looking at Lagna Lord, 7th Karaka.
Well, 7 Karaka, okay.
Lagna Lord, 5th Lord. Then you're looking at Lagna Lord and Jupiter.
Yeah, because, okay.
That's what the second half of that sheet. Let's look at that sheet. We're looking at that sheet, and we're going to be getting homework on this. Right? That's what we're doing. I told you to ignore the one with 2, and you can even ignore 3. I have a shorter version of this without that. I guess I don't have it on here. Did I send you this longer version, or did I send you the shorter version? I don't think I sent you the one that had 2 on it. Second Baba. We don't really do second Baba. I don't need you to do that. You can do it if you want, if there's some reason for it. Did you all get this last time? No, you didn't get this? Claire, you sent it. You filled this out.
I know, but we generated our own email.
Oh, you generated your own. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was actually using your homework thinking, okay, I sent this out.
Sorry. We got overexcited, I guess.
Okay, so it'll go out this week because it has to. You're going to have homework on this. That's going to constitute what you're going to be doing for homework. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, Yuri. But I did show it to you.
Yeah, you showed that, yeah.
So it's not like completely.
Yeah, for woman chart, it will be probably Jupiter, but it's still 3.
No, I would use the main Karaka. I would use Venus.
Oh, still Venus? But the Venus with Jupiter in the chart anyway, it means 311 relationship anyway.
Right. Anyway you slice it, so to speak. Okay, so are we good on this? Now, I know I also gave you Carl Jung. I don't know that did anyone do Carl Jung? Claire, did you do that in your homework? I'm not remembering now.
No, didn't get to it.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So Melanie, did you?
I didn't submit, but I did look at his chart.
Yeah, so I'm not going to do it then if you didn't submit it.
Sounds good.
We'll just let that go, and maybe another time when we do some digestion class or something, I'll bring it back in. But
yeah, it's super interesting.
It's super interesting, yes. Yeah, very much so. But we do want to make sure that we finish both of the remaining ones so that we have a good wrap up next week. So we are in the land, as I mentioned, of the vasanas that are not so easy. I like this one better. And we've done all the way up to here. And now we're dealing with that not only are they non-synergistic, they also imply a dusthana, the 6-8 being double dusthana. So this is the hardest one in some ways. So let's look at the 212. So the 212 is very interesting. We already have sort of covered this part, non-synergistic, invoking dusthana themes. And here's the elemental considerations for it. We already went through all of this for the 410. It's the same thing, except it's now 212. But elementally speaking, it's the same tattvas that are involved in a 212 relationship. Here's the interesting part. There are several dynamics that happen when we have the Lagna Lord and then the significant other in a 212. So implied is this idea of resources or loss of resources. So we know that the 12th bhava is spending and the second bhava is getting money in, right? So there is some kind of tension around that. The second bhava is family, 12th bhava is seclusion. So there may be some disappointment around these ideas. One might want to be more secluded than the other. You could, especially for those of you who have Saturn one way on the moon, people who's an introvert, they don't want to go out to parties or this or that, or their idea of time off is, okay, you go do that and I'm going to, an ashram kind of thing. So family versus seclusion, speech versus silence. So communication can be an issue. Other thing is food can be an issue. One's a vegan, the other likes Big Macs. It's a problem. unless Big Macs is starting to serve Beyond Meat these days. They probably do have options like that now. But, several years ago, if you were a vegan, or even a veg, I remember vegetarian meal, a very fancy hotel in San Diego. It was the Hotel de Coronado, if you've ever been, a beautiful hotel. And we got boiled carrots, boiled potatoes, boiled string beans, and that was our vegetarian meal. So Arthur, you're laughing. Maybe that's still that way in some hotels, I don't know. But usually it's very hard to find a restaurant. I actually lately yelled at somebody. I didn't exactly yell, but I was somewhat sarcastic. I went to a very good restaurant because it was someone's birthday in the family. And it was basically a fish place. Very good fish place, though, very good. And everybody else was fine with that. I was not. But, the caliber of the place, and I've been there before, they had no entree, not a single entree that was vegetarian. None. And so they kind of left out something for me. I said, well, maybe you could do this, but leave out this. And it was just like awful. And I went to the manager. I said, you have got to be kidding that there isn't a vegetarian. You always had vegetarian offerings. But anyway, this could be this could be an issue, right? Now, what is very also interesting about this is where the discomfort comes. And Hart described it. It was just so, in a way, sensation-wise, I would say. If the Lugna Lord is ahead and the other is in the 12th position, it's almost like there's someone behind you that you can't see, right? They're behind you. And so you have this uncomfortableness. Someone's behind you. Just think about this. Think about if you're a woman, or even any gender, walking down a secluded street, in a city at night, and suddenly there are footsteps behind you, and you're kind of, who's there? Or, a car has a blind spot, exactly for this reason. They're in back of you, right? And you can't. Now, of course, they have these wonderful mirrors. It's the best thing that ever happened, that you could see in your blind spots. But you're all driving like that, and you're always worried. You have to turn around and look, and that can be dangerous. So there's something about it. There's something a little creepy, something a little, you're not seeing them maybe for who they really are, and can imply a disappointment. So in this 212, the one who is 12 away will tend to disappoint the one who's ahead. That's an interesting dynamic. Will that be there 100% of the time? No, it won't be there 100% of the time. But there is a certain percentage of the time that Graha in the second position feels let down by the relationship who's in the 12th position. Some lack of support for them, some loss for them, some disappointment from them, something along those lines. Now, don't get too attached to it, because it can revert the other way, where they disappoint each other, or they feel some lack in each other, or some lack of support from each other, or communication issues with each other. But there's still that sort of psychological thing that can happen with a 212 relationship. So I'm going to show you not the chart that you're going to do for homework, because you're actually going to work out all the relationships on that chart. So I'll show you a private chart. So this is the chart of someone in the Sangha's mother. Okay, it's her mother. And so what she's doing is showing you her mother's chart and then commenting on the marriage. So the marriage between her mother and father. So what are we looking at? We're looking at Sun and we're looking at Saturn. Yeah? So notice she is Saturn, right? And the husband is the Sun. It's a 2-12 relationship. She's 12 away from the 7th Lord. However, she said, don't read too much into this because her father has the same 212. And so she has it where she's disappointing her husband, and he has it where he's disappointed by her, or something along those lines. But actually, this wound up flipping at various times in their life. He disappointed her because he cheated on her multiple times. She disappointed him because maybe in reaction to that, she was a spendthrift. You know, she would just go on shopping sprees, and he was very frugal. She would spend all this money. They had being isolated and not isolated, problems with each other as well. And they just never really got or understood each other. They stayed married, though. That's kind of interesting that they stayed married. Maybe it was the culture of this particular woman's country. So a second one, in this particular one, there is it's a younger brother idea. So she happens to know this particular family. So there's we're talking now about, so I'm trying to make sure I get this right. Yeah, I'm not so sure about this, so I'm not going to do this one for you today. I will show you the chart that we'll be doing, because this one is much, much clearer. We could actually do a little bit of it together, and then I'll still give you the rest of the homework for it. Yeah, in fact, I think that's what we'll do. I'll give you this particular piece of it, and then I'm going to give you the rest of the homework for this chart. So this is Charlie Sheen, and I intended to tell you who it was because it's very important. You're going to have to look up Charlie Sheen. So those of you that are just not looking up things, or you whatever, or not, you need to do this so that you get the idea of this. So we're talking about a significant other, okay? Where you're actually going to be exploring all of his relationships. But for now, just for the purposes of doing this 212 thing, we do see that he's Venus, right? And his partners would be Mars. So before we even go into the strengths, and the whole setup for a 1-7 relationship here, a 1-7 Vasta, and how this would get spelled out, and the way the chart sets up with it. Let's answer this question of, in this case, who do you think disappoints who? Melanie?
So he would disappoint her?
Yeah, he would disappoint the partner. You all see that? Now, is this chart a setup for that situation to be especially intense? Unlike the one we saw before, there's things going on here that are much more interesting from that point of view. So if you were just looking at this chart and being asked, how's their marriage or how are their partnerships, without even understanding what we're doing now, okay? Because remember, these are vasanas, and vasanas have to integrate with the karma pala, which is why I realized I have to do this chart rather than the other, because it's just not clean and clear enough. So what do you think if you confronted this chart? Let's look at the native to begin with. What do you see? Melanie?
Well, I'm just wondering if the Rahu Ketu axis is just right away, you're going, okay, there's going to be a and, an extreme on one end or the other.
Why? Just because it's the Rahu Ketu axis?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about the 212 plus that, that's what I was thinking.
Sure, but lots of people have Rahu Ketu axis. So let's see if we can get a little more detail on that. So what do we notice? So D?
Rahu is debilitated in the Lagna.
You notice that Rahu is debilitated in the Lagna.
And there's no stabilization of the Lagna.
Good.
So we don't have an Ava Yoga because the Lagna Lord is gone to a positive house.
It's a positive house.
It's very afflicted.
The Lagna, yes.
The Lagna.
What else is afflicting the Lagna? Misha?
Mars.
Mars, yeah.
I can't see Mars.
You can't see Mars? You must have something on top of it.
Yeah.
Can you all see Mars? Everybody else?
Yeah. The bar. There it is. The bar with all the icons is on top of it.
Oh, yeah. You have to push those out of the way. You're looking at charts. Yeah. So this is a very afflicted Lagna. And also this is a bizarre little Rahu sitting there. And then what about him? Yeah, Yuri, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I will say Lord of Seven in the hotspot. Yeah, like it's going to the 12 from the 7, and it has little aspect of Jupiter. But he has Kahala Yoga. Yeah, it's kind of a little help. If you're talking about him, yeah, because Sun in the Swa over here. Yeah.
Yeah, but what's the main thing first about him?
Debilitation of Venus.
Yeah, he's got, do you remember I told you, be careful when a bhava holds a debilitated graha and the lord of that bhava is also debilitated? We talked about that with Bill Clinton. You guys remember that?
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah. So this isn't a good little thing going on here. And also we know who are Rahu and Venus in other vicharas that we've talked about. What do they represent?
Fatal attraction.
Do you have to have a raised hand, please? D?
They're a passion combo.
Yeah, or even if they aren't a passion combo, they're kama katakas, right? All of you that have done purushottas. So both kama katakas are voracious, they're debilitated. They're not going to really act very well. And then we have the hot spot that Yuri talked about, which is very good. And then we have the 212. So read up on Charlie Sheen. I'm just going to leave it like that. But this is a very good example of a 212 relationship. Mark?
May I just ask a question? I see that the fifth house contains a debilitated graha, but you were saying watch for where the lord of that bhava is debilitated?
It's debilitated, and there's a debilitated graha in the bhava. I'm talking about the lagna. The lagna lord is debilitated, and it has a debilitated rahu in the lagna.
I see. Thank you. Yes.
So there's like a double debilitation circling the lagna.
I see. Yes.
With what we've already observed, there's no stabilization at all on the lagna, and there's no stabilization on the lagna lord. And Yuri's right. There is a Kahala yoga. This is Charlie Sheen. He's famous. He's got big Raj yogas here, also. Most of them involving his father. Without his father, I think he would have been nothing. But Martin Sheen really tried to keep holding him up. But you read about him, you'll see what I mean. And again, we're not finished with him yet. But for this particular thing, this is what I wanted to show you. This is a 212 with teeth, and it sets up perfectly. Yuri?
Yeah, let me ask you this question. Like when we consider a second house, it's a food, like you mentioned, and it's family, and it's kind of support for the first house. I'm just wondering if you have relationship, for example, like Venus and Mars over here, yeah? Mars supposed to be providing support to the Venus because it's in the second from the Venus. Is that my logic is correct a little bit, or?
Well, it can be. It can be that the partners are disappointed by him, and it's kind of like Bill Clinton's 410. He benefits from being 10 away from her, but and here the partners are disappointed by him, and he may be just fine with the partners. They fulfill something for him, possibly. But given that the partners are the whole hotspot thing, this would work better. What you're talking about is if the one ahead is in a good place, making good yogas in a positive house like that. Okay, so the whole setup of the chart has to be factored in as well. It can't be this simple, but this is this simple. This is cued in, and right away you look at this 212 and you look at the double debilitation and you look at the hot spot, and you're going to think somebody's going to really get disappointed by someone else, or lack of support, or expenditures, or all
But
that kind of
it
thing.
still look like she still support him, yeah? Like if this is yeah, kind of.
Yeah. So the only way to really get this down is to look at a lot of charts and to start to see everybody's stories
Okay.
in order to really, so that we're not so literal about the words, but we have much more of a kind of sense of what the vasana is. And then we can express that given the story of the Bhava Vichara that we're seeing and the Yoga Vichara that we're seeing. Yeah, Misha?
Can we just get the birth data for him for homework, please?
Yeah, I will send it to you, or I'll tell it to you today, or whatever. So I haven't announced your homework yet. When I announce your homework, then we'll do that. Okay? Misha, you there? Okay. Okay. So I don't think this is a particularly complicated one to kind of wrap your head around. Let's move on to our last one. So our last one is the 6-8 relationship. Double Dusana themes. 6-8. They're torqued. It's a different the whole thing is kind of problematic, more intense. Same elements, only now you're going to get themes of both Dustanas leaking into an uncomfortable Vasana arrangement. So let's see how that looks. Again, the same considerations as of the elemental considerations. So this is the 410, the 212, and the 6-8. All have these fire, earth, air, fire, water. Troublesome vasanas, and then troublesome alignments. That's our point. This is like lava going down to the river. So these vasanas may or may not have much to do with the reality of the situation. It can also be the habitual way in which a person reacts to a situation. There'll be disappointments, as we know with the 212, they'll be here too, and a sense of loss, that'll be here too. But here, because you have debt's one of the meanings here, and manipulation is one of the meanings. It infers enemies, inimical things, arguments, scandal, bringing in the 8th house, right? Debt, litigation, both 6 and 8 are litigation. Health, it could be, and I'm going to tell you this, that people have a 6-8 relationship, but they may love each other and get along fine, but they're embroiled in a life pattern where one of them is incapacitated. And so their money, their time, trying to live through and and help in that situation is very exhausting and very problematic. That's more the exception than the rule, but I don't want you to think that everybody that's 6/8 are like out and out enemies. And I don't want you to think that, because once again, very much depends on how the chart looks. So I'm going to give you a kind of souped up example. So here's an example of a 6/8. Okay, in this example, it's an interesting example. You have the Lugna Lord has a 6/8 relationship to two very significant others, right? It's a 6/8 with the mother and a 6/8 with the daughter or child, whatever it is. Got it? Can you all see that? Are you following this? This is very important that you be following this. Yeah. Now, when you look at this, however, the grahas, both of them, are in positive houses. Saturn has a first year strength. In the table, the friendship table, Venus and Saturn are friends. Agreed? In fact, Saturn is creating a Parvata-like situation for that Venus. I'm not telling you any more details. I'm just telling you from this so that we could mature our understanding about it. So in this case, it may be that let's go with mother. In a way, the mother may be the more problematic of the two relationships, because Saturn is aspecting back to the fourth bhava, and we know that it doesn't protect the social relationship. You guys, again, are you following? So make sure you are. Okay. So, but it might not be that like this mother is horrible and ornery and miserable. It just might mean that the vasanas just are not harmonious. And the indicators here would be there could be a mature handling of the situation for all the reasons that I said. It's air and water rather than air and earth, which is worse. So I'm going kind of down the list just to see. So this is very problematic, but less so. It could be worse for the reasons that I said. So despite this misalignment, it's not like they hate each other in this particular case in any way, shape, or form. But there is a strain if they spend a lot of time with each other. They're very different worldviews, for example. Very different orientation in life. And if you read from the mother and then from the native, the Rashi of every dynamic here winds up being in that sort of 6/8 from each other. So there can be mitigation. Saturn is completely unafflicted in this particular chart. Venus is very yogic in this particular chart. But both parties have to get trained in how to productively conduct their relationship. So the advice to these particular this particular person and the mother is to maybe not spend long amounts of time in each other's company. This is beyond the growing up years, because this was later on in life. So if one visits the other, have the visits not be very long, because they're just not compatible, if you see what I mean. And either way, the kid visits the mother visits the kid, it's going to descend into something. So that's part of the idea, and also there'll be just this not seeing things the same way, and they can argue, but hopefully there's enough maturity in this particular chart as opposed to one I'll show you in just a minute, or souped up, I should say. Now, if we look at Saturn as the lord of the fifth, I think I misspoke when I said that the mother is the more problematic one. The child is the more problematic because Saturn goes 6 away from the fifth house. As the lord of the fifth, it's 6 away, making this 6/8 relationship. So if the Lagna Lord is in the, also in Parashara, there is this is under the Bhava Vichara chapters. It says when the Lagna Lord is in the fifth, the person will have mediocre progeny happiness. And this Lagna Lord is in the fifth. And now again, don't freak out if your Lagna Lord's in the fifth and you think your child's going to hate you or you won't be happy because of your child. You have to see everything else that's happening, and there's other things happening. There's more affliction to the fifth, etc. So this may be a more difficult vasana pattern, with the fifth Lord going 6 away, and it gives more of a conflict. However, they are in positive houses. One of them has strengths, and if there is enough maturity, they can work their way out of this as well. Let's contrast this, though, with this. So, lords of the first and lords of the fifth are now in a 6-8 relationship like they were before. But what's the difference? So the difference is that the fifth lord has gone to a hot spot, right, Erie? We have another hot spot for the fifth lord. It's gone 7 away from the fifth and 12 away from the Lagna. Wasn't any hot spot in the other chart. Also, I've rendered it so there's a planetary war going on with the fifth Bhava, in case you weren't convinced by the other. Also, I have affliction to the fifth Bhava by Saturn. And Saturn afflicts not only the Bhava and the Lord, it afflicts, the Bhava and the Lord, it afflicts the Lagna Lord as well. So Saturn's afflicting Mars, and Saturn's afflicting Sun, and so you could say that Saturn is afflicting this vasana, both ends of the vasana. Do you see what I'm doing? That kind of way, making it even a little more intense. Now, if this, you could just go with the very basics of this. You don't have to embroider it the way I am, but I'm pointing these things out as things that can be additive to the issues with the relationships. And also there is a Pamara yoga, yeah? You have the fifth Bhava class 2 yoga, where the fifth Bhava Lord goes to the 12th, to a negative house. It's afflicted by Saturn and Mars. And Venus, as the benefic, is in the planetary war. So Kaushala is a disaster here. Their abilities, their skillfulness, and the outcome was problematic as well for this particular, I extracted from a particular chart. Yes, Jada?
Is this the same way too? Like if the one that has the higher number, so like if someone's 8 away, they're the ones causing the issue, or not?
No, this one doesn't necessarily work that way.
Okay, thank you.
Because the other is very specifically 12 away, there's something uncomfortable about it. Something that's secretive and hidden from you and disappointing. This is more open warfare. Misha?
You recommended, like, if this was a situation with a parent and their child, to maybe not spend extended periods of time together during a visit. What if someone has this relationship with their Lagnisha, their Lagna, and their 7th Lord? Like, would you
That's
recommend?
called the duplex marriage.
Right.
Or that man or woman cave. Literally, I've used this. It works very well. That they just spend time apart from each other. And when that door to the library or the man cave or whatever is closed, you don't break that. Okay, that's their kind of silent way. And that's, when I showed you the 2 concentric circles that don't overlap very much, that is a kind of idea of this vasana, right? There is a vasana there, but their ability to overlap in their activities, if it's 6-8, is not going to be a happy outcome. And there are people like that, they drag their partner who really doesn't want to go to whatever this or that, and the partner's sitting there miserable through the whole thing. And, what's the point? Have you been in situations like that?
Yeah, I have the 6-8 and I thrive more with separation. Like I don't like living with people. I
Yeah.
love my alone time. I don't like being dragged to things. I don't think I'll ever live with a partner ever again, like in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know of a situation with someone who has had several, serial long-term relationship, tended to move in, fairly quickly with that person, never worked out, is now in the longest relationship, and they have always lived separately. So they go over to each other's houses, maybe a night or two there and maybe a night or two there, but they do not live with each other. So it's very, very easy if one of them is in that kind of place where they don't have to see each other, etc. And then, they also each of them have a child, they're both divorced. And so one of them will spend, time with their own child, and sometimes they'll just bring it all together. But they have that flexibility. Best relationship this person's been in. They're not married. I don't know that they'll get married, but it's a pretty good relationship. Jada?
Yeah, I just had on my feed something called long-term live-apart relationships, where it's based on this idea. And there was a couple that actually were married, but they lived in separate houses and they had their separate lives, but they were committed to each other. It was quite fascinating. And I was like, hey man,
I think that would help a lot of marriages, actually. I really do. I really do. Okay, so I'm not going to actually show you any. I had these sort of cooked up examples. I definitely could show you examples, but I want to make sure we get this done, so this last piece, and we can discuss it next time. We are going to discuss something called Sambandha Yoga. So we're going to have a couple of interesting yogas here. The first is Sambandha. So Sambandha means a relationship. And what does Su mean? Anybody after our time together? Yes, Melanie.
Would that be below?
No, doesn't mean below. Mark?
Pleasant or good, favorable.
Yeah.
Comfortable.
Shubha. Sukha. Su means good, ka means space, right? So a Sambandha yoga means that somehow in this person's chart, the majority of the relationships are these positive vasanas. Okay? Then we have something called Dusambandha yogas, which is just the opposite. The majority of the relationships in the chart are problematic vasanas. So, you asked for it. I'll give you Charlie Sheen's information. And I'm going to give you two natives. Usually I don't tell that, I just give it the chart, but I think given our situation, I'll tell you who they are, and you'll very quickly understand which classification they are. So I don't believe you have Charlie Sheen's information. Sure, I didn't take it out and put it in a place where I'm not going to be able to find it. Yeah, there it is. Good. It's one of them, and our other native is someone you know very well. So I'm hoping this isn't going to be, too much of a stretch for you, but I don't think it will be, because Charlie you don't know as well, but you certainly do know the other one. So here's Charlie Sheen's information as requested. He was born August 3rd, 1965 at 2248 in New York, New York. So looking at his chart, so we're very clear, that's his chart. I want you to fill in the sheet that I was going to send you as soon as this class is over, okay? Because you know me, a call will come in or an email will come in and I'm off, with my Etch-a-Sketch. So I'm not even going to look at anything. I'm going to end this class and send this out. And then I'm going to have you fill this out, and you could just do this part of the chart. You don't even have to do third. You could just do 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. But if you're curious, you want to do the others, you can. And what I would like you to do, I think I explained it last time, is do the condition, location, and any other comments you want to make on the Lugna Lord and the Lugna. And then what is the relationship of the Lugna Lord to the 4th Lord? What kind of Vasana? This is the Vasana we're talking about. Is it a 6-8? Is it a 7-7? Right? Then are they friends or are they enemies? I already used that. Did you notice that with that souped up one, that Venus and Saturn were friends? So that will help somewhat. And then their strength and then their location. We want to know if they're strong or weak, and we want to know if they're positive houses or negative houses, because that's going to affect it. So that's why I think this is a pretty good document. Then you do the same with the Katakas. So Sun is for father, Moon is for mother, Mars is for sibling, Jupiter is for children, Venus is for partner. So we don't put in the others, okay? Now, what if Venus is the 7th Lord? Well, then you get it kind of doubled up on whatever that relationship is, okay? Let's move to what do we mean by Susambandha and Dusambandha? So let me show you this slide. A Susambandha chart, and I'll give you the native in just a moment. The native will have an innate ability to skillfully relate to those social relationships whose lords are 3, 5, 9, or 11. We are not including in a Susambandha yoga 1, 1, or 7, 7. Or 2, 12, right? Or 6, 8. So to get a Susambandha yoga, which would mean exceptionally positive skillfulness, we would want their vasanas to predominantly be 3, 5, 9, or 11 as counted from the Lugna Lord. What would further strengthen it is if these grahas are strong and they're stabilized. What would further strengthen it is if the grahas are friends of the Lugna Lord. And this applies to a lesser extent to the Lugna Lord and the Kataka. Now, you are not precluded from wondering, what would be the relationship between that person and their boss? Could I use the 10th Lord for the boss? What kind of skillfulness would there be there? Or for the family at large, the second Baba being the Kutumbasthana. Innate skillfulness and very good outcome. But I would just leave it with what we're doing so far. You don't need to complicate your life more. This, of course, is an important factor in compatibility. When we do compatibility, or not we, you'll be doing it with Claudia down the line. But it's completely important for parents and children, very important. And then mothers, the relationship with your mother that you could never understand, and now suddenly you understand it. See what I mean? Why did I have that relationship? Yeah, it's important. Okay, so our Susambandha candidate is Helen Hunt. You all have done Helen Hunt's chart. I'll give you her information again, so you don't have to go digging. So she was born June 15th, 1963 at 12:55 p.m. in Culver City, California, Culver City, California. So you could see it have to be in the around noon, right, with the sun there. So you're going to do the same deal here. You're going to look at all the relationships for the important social relationships and check it out and see whether she's inclined or how strongly she's inclined in one way or the other. And the same for Charlie Sheen. So those are our 2 homework charts, right? His and hers. You all clear about that? And then I'll fill in with other things next week. I don't know that this will take us the whole time next week, so we can fill in some other details as well. Okie dokie. Jada.
So the do sambandha performance,
let me talk about the do sambandha. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very glad you said that because I almost flubbed on that. Do sambandha is this. We're not going to count the 410. So an out-and-out do sambandha would be if those social relationships are 6, 8, or 12 as counted from the Lagna Lord. It will be worse if there's weakness and destabilization, or if they're enemies. And this applies less to the Kataka. Now, this isn't here to scare you or anybody else, okay? This is here because vasanas are things that can be worked with when they are brought into the light. And that's what we're supposed to do. People come because they're having problems. We shed light on the problems. Oh yeah, I see why. So here's a dynamic that might be there. Let's see how we can work with that dynamic. That makes sense? So this class, for whatever reason, has not really done much with personal charts. Not sure why, but it's okay. Maybe it's because you already have enough homework with the homework I'm giving you, and there's not time. That's fine also. But if you happen to have something, then always feel free to send it in. Good. Any questions? We okay? I'll go ahead and close. Misha, is that a question or was just a thumbs up? Yeah, okay. Good. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnaminam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamavavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay, bye guys. See you next week. We're almost at vacation time. I'm looking forward to it. Bye.